At exactly 11 minutes past 9 in the morning Jerusalem time, a single paragraph from the Israeli Prime Minister's office shattered 6 years of careful Abraham Accords diplomacy. Benjamin Netanyahu had just admitted to a secret meeting that nobody in the region was expecting. He had flown into Al Ain, a quiet oasis city on the Oman border, to meet face-to-face with UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. According to Netanyahu's office, it was a historic breakthrough, but 6 hours later, the UAE did something almost unheard of. They issued a flat denial, calling the claim entirely unfounded. You now have two close allies publicly calling each other liars, while the region is in the middle of a massive war. And while this was happening, Iran's foreign minister posted 7 words on X that changed everything. He called the meeting unforgivable and promised that those involved will be held to account. Today, we are unpacking why this isn't just a diplomatic disagreement. It is a confession that just exposed 3 of the deepest secrets of the Iran war. And it is pushing us toward a wider confrontation than anything we have seen since the fighting began on February 28th. Before we go deeper, if you want the verified facts that the headlines aren't telling you, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. This is the breaking signal, and we are going to show you the real picture. Here's what we know is confirmed by the Times of Israel, NBC, and CBS News on March 26th. During Operation Roaring Lion, Netanyahu did board an aircraft for Al Ain. This location was chosen deliberately. It is far from the international press and close enough to Oman to disguise the flight path. According to Ziv Agman, Netanyahu's acting chief of staff who was on that plane, the reception was royal. The Emirati president personally drove Netanyahu to the palace. But this was never just one secret meeting. We now know that the heads of Mossad and Shin Bet have made multiple secret trips to the UAE to coordinate military operations. Even more shocking, the US ambassador recently confirmed that Israel has deployed an Iron Dome air defense battery, along with Israeli soldiers, directly onto Emirati soil. This is a shadow alliance that has finally been pulled into the light. The geopolitical stakes here are massive, because Al Ain isn't just a city, it's a strategic fortress of Emirati tradition, making it the perfect stage for a meeting that was never supposed to exist in the public record. The reason this stayed buried for 2 months comes down to one number: 550. Since this war started, the UAE has been hit by 550 missiles and over 2,200 Iranian drones. They are now the most targeted country in the region, even more than Israel itself. That Iron Dome battery wasn't a political favor. It was a desperate lifeline. The UAE has spent years trying to balance relations between Washington, Israel, and Tehran, but that act fell apart on February 28th. They are denying the meeting tonight because admitting it turns them from a neutral state into a legitimate target for Iranian retaliation. This denial isn't diplomacy, it is a survival strategy. To understand the UAE's position, you have to understand the sheer volume of metal flying through their airspace every single night. When you have hundreds of ballistic missiles aimed at your oil hubs and financial centers, neutrality is a luxury you can no longer afford. This is where the story gets dangerous. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi used the word unforgivable. In Tehran, that isn't an emotion. It is a procedural signal that a target has moved into the category of states that will face direct consequences. This happened the same week Kuwait detained 4 Iranian Revolutionary Guard officers, attempting to infiltrate a coastal island near a US Marine outpost. Iran is testing the boundaries of every Gulf state right now, while Donald Trump is in Beijing trying to convince China to pressure Iran, and while US gas prices soar above $4.50, the ground game in the Gulf is shifting. The infiltration attempt in Kuwait reveals a much broader Iranian strategy to destabilize the logistical hubs of the Western alliance. It suggests that Iran is no longer content with proxy warfare. They are looking for direct points of leverage against any state that facilitates Israeli or American military movements. Israel and the UAE have built a functional military partnership in the shadows. Reports now suggest they may have even coordinated a direct strike against an Iranian petrochemical facility. If that is true, the ceasefire Washington is talking about is a myth. What we are seeing is a permanent realignment of the Middle East. This partnership extends beyond air defense. It includes shared intelligence, maritime security in the Persian Gulf, and a coordinated pushback against Iranian influence in Yemen and Syria. The UAE's silence is their shield, but Israel's announcement has effectively shattered that shield, leaving Abu Dhabi exposed to the full weight of Iranian regional pressure. This isn't just about a single meeting, it's about the fundamental collapse of the old Middle Eastern order. Over the next 72 hours, watch for 3 things: whether Iran moves from words to a physical strike, whether China actually pulls its oil lever on Tehran, and the status of the Strait of Hormuz, which is already costing the global economy billions. If Iran decides to enforce its unforgivable decree, we could see a massive escalation in the maritime corridors that power the world. The secret visit was the spark, but the fire is what that visit reveals about how this war is actually being fought. We are looking at a scenario where the entire Gulf could become an active combat zone. This potential for the Gulf to become a combat zone isn't just a worst-case scenario. It is the logical conclusion of a strategy that has been decades in the making. To understand why the next 72 hours are so critical, we have to look at the Hormuz factor. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow choke point through which 20% of the world's total oil consumption passes every single day. If Iran moves from words to a physical blockade, it won't just be the UAE or Israel feeling the heat. It will be every gas station in Europe, every factory in Asia, and every household in America. We are talking about a global economic cardiac arrest. For years, the world believed that the 2020 Abraham Accords would prevent this exact situation by creating a circle of peace that would deter Iranian aggression. But what we are witnessing now is the birth of a shadow accords, a much more aggressive, much more military-focused version of that original diplomacy. When Benjamin Netanyahu stepped off that plane in Al Ain, he wasn't there to sign trade deals or tourism pacts. He was there to finalize the integration of Israeli radar systems with Emirati interceptors. This is what the military calls sensor-to-shooter connectivity. It means that an Israeli satellite over the Indian Ocean can now feed data directly to a battery in the UAE to shoot down an Iranian missile in seconds. This level of integration is a red line for Tehran because it effectively moves Israel's border right to Iran's doorstep. The UAE's denial is a desperate attempt to put the toothpaste back in the tube. They know that once you admit to hosting the Mossad chief and deploying the Iron Dome, the concept of sovereignty changes. You are no longer just a sovereign nation. You are a forward operating base for the most sophisticated military in the Middle East. And Iran's response in Kuwait, those 4 IRGC officers caught on Bubiyan Island, shows that Tehran is already looking for the weakest link in this new chain. Kuwait has historically tried to stay even more neutral than the UAE, but by pushing into Kuwaiti waters, Iran is sending a message to the entire Gulf Cooperation Council. If you think the Israelis can protect you, look at how easily we can reach your islands. As we look toward the immediate future, keep a close eye on the price of Brent crude oil. If it spikes past the $100 mark in the next 48 hours, it means the markets have stopped believing the diplomatic denials and have started pricing in a major naval confrontation. At the same time, watch the flight tracking data over the Gulf. If we see a sudden redirection of commercial air traffic away from the Emirati coast, it will be the final signal that intelligence agencies expect the unforgivable decree to be enforced. The fire is indeed spreading, and while the headlines focus on the drama of a secret meeting, the real story is the tectonic shift of power. The Gulf is no longer a spectator in the Iran-Israel conflict. It has become the primary arena. The shadow alliance is out in the light. The lines are drawn in the sand, and the next 72 hours will determine if this realignment leads to a fragile new peace or a devastating regional explosion. We are monitoring every movement, every satellite image, and every official statement to bring you the truth as it breaks. Leave a comment below with what you think happens next. Like, share, and subscribe to stay with us for the next phase. I will see you in the next one.